Hello, everyone. I'll just allow 10 seconds for people to get out and in. Is everyone doing okay? Yeah? Tired, excited, more or less? So, I'll be talking about fashion. Um, Before we start, I'm an industrial engineer. I was trained essentially to be at shop floor factories. But very early in my career, I started building businesses, essentially tech businesses. And in the last 10 years, I've been working primarily with fashion, so fashion-related tech companies. Um, in one of those companies, Platform E, we work very closely with primarily luxury clients. Some of our biggest clients are Hermès, LVMH, so Fendi, Dior, also from Kering like Gucci, Saint Laurent, and several other brands. Very recently, we've started working on the entire industry's main challenges. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with the fashion industry, but the industry, it's huge. It's clearly one of the top 10 industries in the world if we consider the financial value. And if we consider the labor force, it's probably top 4, top 5, so it's really, really big. And it's probably the only industry that I know that starts with huge, huge gross margins, sometimes more than 80% gross margins. And it ends at 3, 4, in exceptional years, 5% net margin. So the volume of value destruction, it's absolutely nonsense. And so the industry is really desperate to find big solutions. So talking about Fashionable, one of our newest ventures, and what do we do within fashion? So we have been working for several years now, essentially in creating models that really train networks to build designs and imagery around fashion. I don't know if you can see the images in detail, maybe in the screens it's slightly better. Our AI designed and developed one of these dresses, and maybe some of you will guess, maybe some others will not. The answer is this one. Again, in this projection, it's not very clear, maybe in the screens. But the point here is we have achieved very high fidelity, what we could call photorealism. And actually, our R&D group, since we have launched the first results, our IP was declared the state of the art in the world for fashion. So if you are interested, if you Google fashionable and state of the art, you will see some white papers reviewed from experts from PyTorch, from Linux Foundation, several other trusted parties like Harvard Business Review, McKinsey, etc. And the visual quality is now equal or better than photographic quality. So the human eye cannot distinguish what is the real photo or an AI-generated photo. So where will this technology, and specifically AI and our IP, impact fashion? Pretty much everywhere, to be honest. So the life cycle of apparel or garments, it's pretty long. The lead times to produce a regular fashion article like this simple shirt sometimes are in the region of months, sometimes even years. And all the way from fiber and textile production to the use and reuse phase, or eventually terminating the product, every single stage will be impacted. Because obviously our time is limited, I brought 2 or 3 very specific use cases and very specific, if you want, proofs of concept that we've been working on that are, I believe, interesting. So we will be focusing in the next 4 or 5 minutes in the design and distribution stages, or if you want, retail, and also reutilization, which is very much needed for the industry. So in terms of design, I think it's self-explanatory. This is actually an animated GIF, and there are thousands of variations on this design. But everything that you see here was generated through our IP. at the present moment, with our installed capacity of computer processing, we can generate around 10,000 designs per 5 minutes, give or take. Obviously, if we invest more in more machines, we can have a greater output. But all of this to say that it is already several orders of magnitude larger and bigger than what the human, let's say, capacity can do. And more than the quantity, it's again the quality. So the quality is at par, if not even better than, again, photos and manual or human design. And specifically in the design process, obviously we can now set prompts, requisites, guidelines, and say, okay, look, I want to design a new hoodie, and it should be darker, so let's say navy blue or gray or even black, and I want it to have illustrations, maybe in the sleeves or in the front part. And we cannot see here the figures, but again, we can do this at an incredible scale. And immediately after, we can jump from what we could call this generated mood board into a co-creation or a co-design tool to fine-tune that specific design and saying, okay, I want to select this specific design, but actually I would like to see how the sleeves would be in gray, or how I would like to change the illustration, etc., etc. And eventually then we will have, and that's the reason of existence of Platform-E, one of our companies. And again, I don't know if you can see it here, maybe in the screens. You will have the tech pack. So you will have the technical files. So you send the patterns to factories, and you really accelerate the creation to market loop. So we can drastically accelerate the creation. It's very interesting because, as Rachel has just told us, the IP protection will be for sure one of the greatest challenges. So I don't have any doubt of the capacity of the technology, and we're seeing several other teams and several other companies arriving to similar levels of quality. Now, the big opportunity is not achieving that quality, it's just a question of time. We've made it already. The big opportunity is coining every single design as unique and protected and 100% certified as original. This is extremely complex. It's actually an intellectual challenge, not only technical or technological challenge, because first and foremost, people like Rachel and other lawyers and lawmakers will have to determine what does it mean to be 100% original, 100%, let's say, protected in terms of copyright. And fine, we can protect trademarks, fine, we can protect very, very specific artistic elements or prints. It's extremely, extremely hard, if possible, to protect technical designs in terms of, apparel and garment construction. So we are building in parallel not only the content output, but also frameworks for original content creation, so we can trace back to all of the modules, and whenever a brand or a designer use our tool, they will know that this wasn't made based on an existent photo that we have somehow scraped out, the internet. And we can trace back to all of the synthetic models and the synthetic databases that we have created from the get-go, from zero. So essentially, we start by building and training what does it mean to be a hoodie, what does it mean to be, to be a sleeve or the neck or a print. We train all of the nuances of the model, and then as soon as the model is trained, we set our own original content that is 100% synthetic, 100% again trained by us. So we're not scraping, we're not fetching public or private information that is out there. One other use case that is very, very relevant, it's obviously the retail distribution, particularly for e-commerce, but not only. Everything that has content or digital content, if you want. One of the greatest challenges of selling a piece of clothing like this very simple blouse. It's actually creating the aspirational, the desirability aspects of it. And everyone knows, and marketeers know that this product within context, it's likely to sell or to convert 10 times more than just a pack shot or just the product shot. And this is why every major retailer and brand, they invest a lot in the pipeline of content creation. And for every single photo that you produce like this, it's not just as simple as having a photographer and a good camera and taking a shot. There is a model, there is an agency for that model, there is a pipeline of styling. So people that select this necklace and eventually pants. There is the hairdresser, there is the makeup artists, and so on and so forth. And the most important thing, it's actually the rights. So if I use this image, typically, if I am, let's say, Zara or Gucci, I will pay these models' rights for one collection, one season, eventually a couple of years max, and I will have to pay her, and I will have to pay her agency if I want to reuse this image in 3 years or in 4 years. Now, the entire pipeline plus rights, IP rights and image rights, can be clearly now streamlined into synthetic models, and again, as this one that I'm showing here. This is a real photo, this is a real photo, this is a generative composition of the two. But obviously we can do much more than that. We can also create this in different body types, in different color schemes, hairstyle types, etc., etc. And again, we can, for the first time ever, create a synthetic model, which is not this case. This case was obviously a copy of the photo, but I'll show you in the next slide synthetic models made by our technology. And because the model, again, is synthetic, you own the perpetual rights of the utilization of that. So you will never have any problem on reutilizing those images in the future. And this is particularly important for one use case that I'll show you in a minute. Those are examples of synthetic models. And again, apologies on the projection. Maybe in the screens you can see it in more detail. Every single model that you see here is not real. It's not a human being. It's a synthetic generative result. But more important than that, what we wanted to show are examples of styles, fitting, and even fashion styles of the same product within different contexts, models, or even looks. And a creative director can say, look, I wanted to show this knitwear jumper with denim, and I want to have it on a more loosely kind of style. So we can compose different results on pretty much the same products, and again, to have and generate many, many different results. One of the things that is absolutely crucial, again, going back to fashion's perennial challenge of generating a lot of waste and having a lot of literally dumped fashion into landfills, incinerators, etc. It's the need of the circularity and reutilization. And by default, the use case and business case of secondary markets, so reselling our closet units, it's extremely difficult, and even the biggest players out there, like the Real, Vestiaire Collectif, Vinted, etc., struggle for one very specific thing. If you have one product to sell, and if you need to do the photo shooting session for that same product, the amount of resources, time, money that you spend to sell this product, it's prohibitive. You can do this if you do one photo session to sell 1,000 of this, so you can dilute that cost in the projected sales, but when it is one-to-one, it is extremely hard, if not impossible, to validate the financial proposition of it. So the only way of really solving this is through technology, and specifically generative technology. That's absolutely clear. Obviously, you would have other nuances if this was 5,000 or 4,000 euro or dollar piece of clothing. You could afford to pay $50 to the model than to sell for 1,000 or more. But for regular fashion, it is simply not viable, and the user-generated content, it's still relatively poor, because obviously not every single one of us are models or professional photographers. So the user-generated content, it's still not super exciting. So with this, again, we've covered 2 or 3 use cases, and I'll make some room for questions. And again, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Gonzalo. I think there's a few questions in the audience. Yes.
Hey, so thank you. I'm working actually also for luxury and retail clients, so I'm very up to the topic. And I just wanted to know, you might have also heard about that backlash that Levi's got for the AI models they used. So I think it's a very interesting question, because it somehow shows a problem with what we're doing here with generating, let me say, images for to sell a product, that especially in a phase where AI is not what we would like it to be, it is not like, it's not really accurate in what it creates, and especially that backlash was about models losing their job, etc. How do you, just because I'm interested from your perspective, as you're offering these products, do you take that into consideration, and how would you implement that into your product?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and obviously there's a fundamental, I would say, broader challenge, which is precisely to your point. Is this replacing jobs, right? Is this reducing the opportunity to promote and open more jobs or not? There is a trade-off. So it's very clear, and I've showed a couple of examples, that there are some processes that are essentially financial losing processes. So negative working capital, whatever you want to call it, it's not designed to be successful from a financial point of view. And obviously, it's very hard to explain to a model that they might lose their job because we will have now this sophisticated technology generating thousands of images. But if you go to a company, a brand, eventually the decision makers or the shareholders of that same brand, and if you tell them that you can still work with models, but one, it takes 10 times longer, second, it is 5 times more expensive, it's just, the rationale of the trade-off. Do I want to promote more social support and creating more jobs? Do I want to go faster and have better margins? Or do I want to have a hybrid and a best balance of both? I don't have the answer. I am not a decision maker. I'm not an agency owner, so I don't support, or I'm not biased on their side, and I'm not a brand owner. The industry will tell, and by the way, not just with fashion, how far will this go, and what will be, the trade-off of promoting jobs that eventually are negative, again, financially speaking, that are consuming resources versus the utilization of technology. I guess on an intellectual thing, I think we are meant as engineers to bring solutions, right? We are not meant to say you should replace this or not. If the solution is there, then the decision makers should evaluate pros and cons and then applying or not.
Any other questions? One more? Yep, over here.
A very quick one. Whilst I was watching your presentation, I was wondering, why don't you offer this to the final consumers? So have people at home behind a computer like I don't know, the software to generate pictures, generate your own clothes. Because I was wondering, how do you because fashion is something, it's cultural, right? It changes over time, and I kind of wonder how does this AI, how will it help you with that? For that, you need new data, because I also watched the presentation on data drifting, and that happens here as well, right? So what would you
exceptional question. I think that's not $1 million question. It's probably more than $1 billion question. So it's very, very clear that in the content creation economy, or in the creators economy, if you want, fashion will be one of the next big industries to jump on that wave. It's fairly easy for a YouTuber to do like a podcast that eventually, is successful because the resources that he or she needs are relatively accessible. It's fairly easy if I sing or play very well guitar to record myself and eventually becoming a relatively famous singer. It's very hard to become a fashion designer because I need a lot of resources that are not just in my house. I need to understand about fabric. I need to jump into factories. In many cases, factories are only in specific regions and countries in the world, etc. So that's an amazing question, and we really believe that this will make a huge push on the creation aspect, again, design. And I don't need to understand about the technicalities of this fabric to understand what kind of buttons can I have or labels, whatnot. There will be a next immediate step, and we are working on that and hopefully announcing something big soon, which is scraping and digitizing catalogs from factories and saying, hey, you have designed this beautiful dress, you creator A, and guess what? We know 7 factories that are experts in doing dresses like those with the kind of materials that you designed. Do you want to connect with them and launch your own mini collection, starting your own brand? Many people have tried to do this, including very famous people. Everyone failed. There are 1 or 2 exceptions, but in relatively small dimensions. Even Rihanna, with a ton of influencers, she failed, and she had to sell losing the Fenty. And Rihanna is like a superstar, and she could do pretty much everything. All of the factories were open for her, and she failed. So this is a very complex challenge, but I believe that in the next couple of years, we will see both on the design and the manufacturing aspects, tools that will bridge this. Great question.
Yep, great question, great discussion. All right, give a big hand to Gonzalo.
Thank you so much.